Pablo Rodriguez is the Executive Vice President of NIC BR. It's good to see you once again online, Pablo. Greetings on, guys. Great to be here with you, the audience, and so many people that are here. Great to have you here once again. Pablo is the Executive Vice President of NIC BR, which is the country code, the high-level country code of Puerto Rico. And Pablo plays a key role in the ICANN community. Rodrigo, Nicolas Antoniello wanted to come, and there were people that couldn't come because of personal reasons, and we were speaking with Agralo on Agralo. Pablo has been very active in ICANN with all the country codes. Adrian Carvalho says hi, by the way, is here in the audience. And Oscar Mesano that is here. And all the students from the region, those that are online and those that are in person. So this is a new hybrid setting that is quite challenging, rather than having something online or in person by itself. So hopefully we're going to hear something more disruptive than the technology in itself. And right now he's proposing emergence technologies and ethics, which is a very interesting topic, and everything that comes with cybercrime, crypto assets, and things that are changing, that are new. And the last frontier or barrier of difficulty is ethics. And I believe ethics, in my humble opinion, poses the great challenge of how to address the things. Pablo, let me welcome you. We have your presentation, so the floor is all yours. Thank you very much, Olga. Greetings to everybody that is here, and to thousands of people that are listening from abroad. The issue of ethics and emerging technologies is a topic that on a daily basis becomes a crucial one. However, it is necessary to establish clearly how we define these concepts, so we can compare apples and not oranges. It's not easy thinking, as many of you think, that emerging technologies are the same So, as I was saying, emerging technologies and firmly rooted technologies are not the same. Conventional technologies are not the same. Many people believe that emerging is new. So before I deal with this presentation, let me deal with morality and ethics. As you clearly see, morality is what is good and what is bad. And this is predefined or ingrained in our culture. That is, in our culture, depending on what our religion is and depending on what countries we're living in. Robbing is not good. Killing is not good. Providing housing, giving food to a homeless is something good. But in all countries, this is seen with the same perspective, or will have the same meaning or impact in other cultures. So ethics is no other thing but justifying what is good and what is bad in line with the cultural framework that we have established and that we have inherited through millennials in our culture, and therefore, we're not going to agree on what is good and what is bad. We may agree on something, we may not agree on other things. Killing dolphin or killing whales in some cultures is okay and is part of their daily lives and their livelihoods. In other countries, it's an aberration. So we will never agree on what is good and what is bad 100%, but at least we're going to reach a general consensus and that midpoint or that consensus to coexist. So what are the emerging technologies? Let me take the opportunity to make a difference between technologies that are firmly rooted, that are part and parcel, that are ingrained in our culture, with the things that we do on our daily lives by creating communication, producing communication, and those are technologies that are already established. For example, the automobile industry, technology that has been for 100 years ago. I mean, it has been for 100 years, and in some cities we couldn't conceive to live well without having a car or a way of communication, like for example, we use satellites. Among other things, biotechnology, antibiotics, vaccines, that increasingly more become so perspective as a result of COVID-19 and other infections that highly affect and that have gained momentum in Ebola or with other sort of diseases. And information technology that we are bringing to the table. So these technologies we're aware of, we're familiar with, we're working with them. And later on, we're going to see how the ethical approach for a given technology that is firmly rooted differs from the ethical approach of an emerging technology. These technologies are new technologies that are innovative and they're still under development. And it's not the same as a new one because satellite technologies, and for years, automobiles change with time and they do have different features and different functionalities that do not make this car emerging or emergent, make them innovators or better. Why are not emerging cars? Because emerging technologies are characterized because they are subject to development. Its development is still underway. I mean, we're seeing part of the technology that just came out of the laboratory, but that is still under development and has not reached its maturity or its full potential. Given the sales of its products or services. And these technologies are going to come out in the future. I mean, our expect and our aspirations is to have an impact that is socio-economic impact that will provide economic value. They are still in R&D, but we still do not have enough products or applications. We still do not have a socio-economic impact at large scale. So when we see the marketing of these technologies, we will hear things like, with this technology, in the future, you will be capable, you will be facilitated or enabled to do something. And always speaking of the future, an emerging technology involves smart material. And although I'm skipping part of the material, I'm sure that you're aware that in some of the cases, you have some kind of glasses that are part of some material, and when you have a hot liquid, they turn into a different color. That glass is not the final product of a technology, but it is a way of obtaining financing to have more extensive research that has not been launched and has not developed its full potential in terms of products and services that we can come up with. So we are starting to see some of these things, and these technologies will remain emerging as long as they go through the new adoption of innovation process. And adopting technology is a research or a field in itself. And for those of you that are watching this and that you're involved in marketing or in sales, you know full well that this process takes time. So technology adoption implies a long-term loyalty process of those who have adopted that technology, and they refer or they make referrals. So the product maybe could be a life changer or a game changer. However, every individual has different needs and we have different ideas of what our professions are. So let's leave it there. However, this is a very wide topic that is a discipline on itself. In terms of emerging technologies, you have research, ideas, designs, that is the red cycle. And some of them that are mature, they are in development, production, and marketing. Such as glasses or goggles that are developed by Meta or any other products that are still under development. Even computer components or chips, especially when we speak of quantum physics, or when we consider how we are going to consider developing this quantum computing. This is technology innovation that are emerging that we'll hear from them and that they are still inside a lab. So some of these examples of emerging technologies are the following. Medical nanotechnology is one example. In the future, we expect the development of sun machines with nanometrics. So at the molecular level, you will be capable of targeting our DNA and make the necessary corrections to our DNA, or making repairs to the DNA, or in the future, they may operate some chromosomes, remove some chromosomes that may be causing some impediments, or destroy some infected cells. So we're working on that, and in the future, probably this will be attained. Another sort of technology is synthetic biology. Synthetic biology pursues or seeks that middle point in between striking a balance between biological processes that may be facilitated by additional processes or enhanced by other projects within the field of genetics. And any of these sort of the fields are related, but they are disciplines in themselves. Another issue that I'm sure that you have dealt with in this school is the issue of the Internet of Things. IoT is something that is very, very close. However, we don't have the results or the consequences that we intend to have. Yes, we talk about smart cities or an ambulance that is blessed with benefits. Having the capability of an incoming patient or accepting an incoming patient that have suffered a stroke. And when the ambulance is driving in the highway, can change the traffic lights into green and stop those that are in the other lane or in the contiguous lane, so they can overcome all obstacles and drive as much as possible. And at the same time, that ambulance could be reporting the ICU, the intensive care unit, or the heart unit, so the cardiologist could wait for the patient, knowing the vitals. And this could be possible, especially if you have smart cities and in the near future. However, we're not close. We're not there yet in some of the cases, probably because it requires further development, or it may be due to government intervention or involvement, or people promoting these channels to many governments so they can make the necessary investments, because we're speaking of multi-million-dollar investments, and it takes time to adopt these sort of technologies. And we know how virtual reality works. This is not something new. We've been discussing this for quite a while, and increasingly more. We're closer. We are approaching to fulfill those promises that through the years that have been posed by this technology, saying or arguing that you could fulfill a certain benefit with virtual reality. Nobody would like to have a surgeon performing virtual reality surgeries and practicing on your body. Why doesn't he practice virtually and use this technology so he can practice, so he can be trained on a special certain skill or technique? That would be great. Or with all the possibilities, it would be great to create, especially when a bomb explodes. And when this explosion goes off, probably we can study the crime scene without causing that explosion. And by trial error, we can analyze it over and over. Or in teaching young people the fundamentals of electricity and how to connect the wire without getting shocked. And probably you can do it virtually, and then by learning by experience, you can have a pilot project, and you can, for example, get on board a simulator probably we could have it even at home. Now, augmented reality. How many times we have come to a store to pick up a product or to buy a product and we have no idea where they are. There's a large number of grocery stores in the United States where you can even go and buy all kinds of products, cleaning supplies, home goods. And you need to go around and walk along the aisles and to trying to find and spot the products. If probably you can even switch your mobile device and you can aim it or target it, just like aiming at the home appliances. Probably can show you a list of computers where milk is, where food, beef. So when you come to the city for the first time, probably you can know, probably tells you, okay, this is where the grocery store, where the pharmacies, firemen, police station, hospital, and clinics. So augmented reality, once and again, has made strides or has made advances. However, we're still things that are under development or subject to development. That's why they have become emerging technologies. There are other areas of research like environmental clean fuels, wind power, solar power, or maritime or wave energy, where you are driving turbines that are producing generation or power, or national security, specifically in terms of cybersecurity and other affairs, governmental affairs that are very important and that are contemplated as emerging technologies. And this is especially important because these technologies could be the future or resolve and overcome the challenges of the future. Each of the challenges or impediments that we try to solve today, at one point, were the solutions to the past. Every time that we solve something, this results into an impediment or a problem in the future. And this is what characterizes complex systems. And we live in complex systems because none of us can see beyond the future to anticipate and to be assured that the decision that I make today will be flawless in the future, which is unbeatable in the future, and this is not the case. We have enabling technologies, and these are technologies that use or employ other technologies or that facilitate the use of other technologies. For example, a glass manufacturer. In glass manufacturing, there are certain transistors that instead of being embedded in a silicon formation, they are in the silica inside the glass material, and this facilitates that we can manufacture, for example, glass fiberglass or fiber instead of copper. Integrated circuits, genetics, nanotechnology, thermal energy storage, as any other topics that we have mentioned so far. And we do have another enabling other enabling technologies that are part of technologies that are more specific, like, for example, textile engineering. For example, in the case of fabric, well, then when they are subject to electricity or electrical impulses, they become hotter, some of them become colder. Architecture that is sustainable, that works with the environment, promoting the smart management of air, water, heat, temperature, glasses, that they have the capability of not only resistant to heat, but at the same time they keep the heat and they may convert it into energy. All this work is being done right now, and very soon it will become into further rooted technologies or traditional technologies. So probably in the future we will have buildings with glasses that will create their own electricity. And then we have technologies like missiles, antibiotics, quartz, that depend on other technologies that have been improving. So, what is the North Star? For example, when we approach this from the ethical standpoint and we approach technology, this changes from one to another. The ethical approach of firmly rooted technologies is different from the emerging technologies, from that of emerging technologies. Because you have seen and you have lived with these technologies and you can prove how they improve their lives and how they brought about problems. For example, some of these technologies, like the automobile, it's clear that it's fabulous because you may travel long distances, and at the same time, they have been the reason why we release CO2 gases that result into global warming. By the same token, we start seeking ways to find a survey or a trial of these new technologies to work and to perform an assessment from the ethical point of view, since we have them with us. However, these technologies differ from emerging technologies. And emerging technologies cannot be approached from the ethical point of view just as we did that with the firmly rooted technologies, because in this case, many of these technologies are not existent or they are not available in society. So we need to work with what is called or referred to as
tecnología y tenemos que tratar dos distintos.
The analysis of these technologies or methodologies, and we need to approach it in two different ways. For example, speculative use of the future uses and impacts. Early intervention in innovation process that could result into a great advantage. What are the ethical approaches for emerging technologies? There may be 5 approaches that will be interesting for you. And these 5 focuses or approaches will allow us, when we are faced with emerging technologies, how we can consider these technologies and look at them from the point of view of ethics. And how does impact and how it may impact society at large, our families, our country. We have a generic approach, an anticipatory approach, an ethical risk analysis, an experimental approach, and finally, a deliberative, participatory ethical approach. Generic approach primarily focus on the general features of an emerging technology, including ethical matters regardless of any other product use or specific impact. We should consider that we're speaking of emerging technologies that we do not have or that we're not aware of. We're not aware that this technology exists. So we may speculate or anticipate what would happen if I had quantum computers. When will they use them? Could they be used for certain applications like cybercrime? What a cybercrime would look like on a quantum computer? What would happen with digital certificates when these quantum computers emerge? What are we doing about it? All these topics are speculations that we'll be wondering because technology has not been launched. So the generic approach are going to be assessed conceptually. And there are just a few assessments, and they deal merely with general characteristics or features. On the other aspect, on the other hand, engineering ethical critics argue that the manipulation of genomes on biotechnology and nanotechnology as well, that manipulation of genomes is judging God, because that is just as designing a new life. Do we agree that that is the case? Not in all societies, not necessarily. So, once and again, we're seeking to find ways to do these sort of things. To be critical of an emerging technology because it implies a chemical or physical processes that may release gases or toxic or detrimental substances or waste like a byproduct. We talk about the green gas effects or traveling from one country to another, like the carbon footprint, radiation, or when somebody promote nuclear energy to generate the energy that is so much needed. So there are products that are carcinogenous that may result into a problem, specifically not only in our countries but also in neighboring ones. The anticipatory or a predictive approach, combining a whole set of techniques and perspectives of prognosis or a future study of scenarios, trends analysis, Delphi panels, horizontal scanning, or sweeping. This is used for projecting products, applications, or future impact. It could be likely to introduce a new emerging technology. And only can we anticipate or foresee, but let's see if we can foresee and predict the future. That's way too difficult. So when faced with a technology, one should have the capability of considering the nature of that technology and consider at the same time that there may be impacts from the ethical point of view to society, whether you're aware of these risks or not. Now, the ethical risk analysis is divided into risk assessment, the identification, the evaluation, and the measuring of the likelihood and the severity of the risks. And risk management refers to the decision-making process, and you're aware of those risks. So this technology, why is it used? Because it gives us a chance and it gives us the potential to cause this problem. So these are mega speculations that should be based on data and assessed by scientists accordingly. Now, the ethical risk analysis has to include a risk to benefit ratio. For example, if you set up a nuclear plant, this risk, or you will run certain risks, but in line you will have other benefits. So you make progress using analysis methodologies so one can assess whether we can do it or not. For an individual, the risk-benefit ratio of air traveling exceeds 1. However, it hasn't been demonstrated that spatial air traveling is not the case. Is it worthwhile performing this kind of, for becoming involved in investments in this kind of technology? This is what we're wondering. Now, the risk analysis from the ethical point of view of emerging technologies identify the likelihood of risks, and they assess it morally and propose strategies or manage from the risk management point of view that justify ethics. Likewise, the benefit-risk ratio ethical analysis has to consider many ethical affairs, determining use in the proportional risk-benefit ratio. So when we consider and we determine whether it's worthwhile or not, so we need to be on the alert and warned that this barrage of new technologies will increase because as technologies are on the rise, are making progress will accelerate the rate whether it is harmless DNA studies, especially if we share with friends and we have to explain why I have a special genetics and people in other cultures, in other countries. And probably you found relatives that you share genetics of a certain country. But what are you going to do with that personal information gathered by a certain company, and how are they going to use it? Are they going to use it in favor, against me? And what would happen if it's used against me? And how can, or what they would do with that information? So this is anticipatory, preventive use of technology. There are experimental approaches in which you can read later on, and participatory ethical approaches and deliberative approaches. Once again, they're very similar to what you do here.
In this school and what we do in ICANN, where we make sure to provide several opportunities so that everyone can participate. And these are the different references. And if you have questions and you want to continue talking about this, please, you can send me an email to info@dr.pr. Thanks for the opportunity of giving my presentation. It's been a great pleasure and a great honor to share this presentation with you. A round of applause for Pablo. I have a question, Pablo. I know that what I like about Pablo is that he is always doing many things that have to do with technology and innovative things. So I know that you have been working with the healthcare field and metaverse. So how do you see the institutions that are not related to technology, maybe healthcare organizations or health ministries, government institutions that work with healthcare? How do you see them interacting with a leading edge technology such as metaverse that may imply some things that have to do with personal data or security of information of individuals with medical data which are quite sensitive and confidential? So how do you see that kind of interaction? I consider that one of the difficulties that we have today is to try to cover this phenomenon as a whole, especially in organizations that don't have a lot of experience with technology. You mentioned the like something that is very important, that is an comprehensive approach. We need to understand that technologies require a multi-stake participation from different areas. In my presentation, I included a cyborg, and that cyborg is the connection for many technologies, concepts, and ideas related to many topics, for example, from the linguistics that organization is going to use, to the regulations, ethical rules, the Asimov laws. The robot will not attack the human being, will respect the human being life. But what about in other countries? What are they going to do with that cyborg? How that neurodigital network was developed for that machine that would allow the decision-making process similar to the way we do it. In all the working mechanisms, this is not only responsibility for engineers or electrical and technology engineers, computer engineers, or IT engineers, but you, myself, the elementary teacher, a politician, all of us are responsible and accountable of this. And that's why it's so important to consider that last slide when I mentioned deliberate processes in which we need to be involved and to be alert, and thinking that with each technology that we adopt, we need to consider that the possible solution may become a future problem. We need to be alert because we need to think how we're going to solve it and to approach these kind of issues. Those 5 approaches that I mentioned are a proposal of how we can approach these matters. Are there any questions in the audience? We have Mark here who wants to ask a question. I can't see anything. I have a light that is in my face and I don't see the audience. Hello, Pablo. How are you? Mark, it's so good to hear from you. Your ideas are always so interesting. And I was wondering if you have any thoughts about the community of Internet governance in which we participate. Are there some kind of ideas that we should be considering, or some things that we should be thinking about, or some ways to move forward in a preemptive way? What do you think about it? Yes, undoubtedly. Thanks for your question, Mark. It's a very good question. Our community is quite comprehensive, and it mentions or talks about comprehensive topics. So we need to examine the different topics we are working on and to discuss about them, which are the best practices and how those best practices cover the needs of the users and how those practices can help the users. For example, for an ISP, and how that is going to help promote communication, education, progress of the community as a whole. So each of these approaches, the 5 approaches that I mentioned, cover that. But those are not the only solution. This is only food for thought, as we say. What else can we do? The idea of giving this presentation is not to offer a final solution, but maybe to give some food for thought and to bring your attention to the fact that each of the technologies that we mentioned have ethical connotations, and that for each technology there should be a different way of approaching it. And the idea is to offer some kind of pathway that we can follow, but that is not necessarily the single pathway. Within our community, I'm sure that there are many things such as universal acceptance, in which we can work. We know that it's difficult to work with different ethnic groups. But anyway, we need to consider how that is going to work, how Internet as we know it today will cover the needs of the future generations and the needs of those generations. How much energy are we going to need to generate to keep Internet as we know it? How much energy are we going to need to handle, for example, the different changes? And this has serious connotations. In a country such as Puerto Rico, which is a small country, we have huge needs of energy, and we may need maybe a nuclear plant, but if we have a nuclear plant, which are going to be the benefits and the risks that we are going to face? And the same way we are going to have these kind of discussions within our community. Here at the school, we are already talking about this, and undoubtedly, I believe this is where we should talk about this, and we should have that knowledge to think that we should get involved in those processes. Thank you for your question, Mark. Thank you, Pablo. We are at the end of our session today, and I want to thank Pablo because he has been a sponsor of the school. We have a hybrid format in this conference. We have an audience here at the room. We have more than 100 people online. And I don't know if you have organized a hybrid event, but it's really a new challenge. And it's so different from the face-to-face or the only virtual events. So thank you for your cooperation with your presentation and the PR as a sponsor. I hope to see you in March in Mexico, and I hope that we can go there. And greetings to your family and to you, And please, a round of applause for Pablo. Thank you. Greetings for you, Adrián, Oscar, and for all the audience, and for the hundreds that are following the conference online. I'm in New York now, so thank you for your greetings, and I'm going to pass them to my family. Thank you, and see you soon.